Good evening. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of Tea with Trasetta, the training, encouragement, and answers you need to be successful in life and business. I am your host, Trasetta Alexander, faith-based business coach and motivational speaker, as well as the founder of Sister Spotters Entrepreneurship Support Network. And tonight I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 reasons you're not hitting your goals. But before we get into tonight's content, as you all are joining in, I want to remind you, I have been sharing for the last few weeks the Sister Spotters Mastermind Intensive, which registration closes Thursday at midnight, or 11:59 technically, Thursday night, because the event is going down on Saturday here in Tallahassee, Florida, and we have our mixer or meet and greet on Friday night. So if you have not gotten your seat and you've been on the fence or you've been thinking about attending this event, go ahead and head on over to trasettaalexander.com/mastermind to get all the details and sign up to register. Space is limited to only 12 people because this is a very intimate event. We're going to be doing hot seats. The whole focus of this event is for us to be doing hot seats so that we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of a specific problem, opportunity, or issue that you're having in your business so that you can walk away with an actual strategy as well as the next steps for you to move forward in whatever it is that you bring to the table for your business. So head on over to trasettaalexander.com/mastermind to get all the details and to sign up for that event this weekend. Because it's closing, registration is closing at 11:59 p.m. Thursday night. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, let's dive into our content for tonight. So if you are just joining me, we are talking about the top 5 reasons you are not hitting your goals. And the number one reason is that you won't adjust your vision. Right? So a lot of us have a tendency to have this vision as to whatever it is that we're doing, whatever the project is, whatever the product is. Maybe it's an event, like I'm preparing for this event this weekend. We have this vision in our head of what it's going to be like, what we want it to look like, how things are going to go. And when things don't go the way we anticipate, or when things start shifting, we won't make the adjustment with it. We won't make the shift along with the situation. So building a business is not linear, right? It doesn't just, you don't just come up with your business plan, come up with your product idea, your service idea, whatever it is, and put it out there and everything just goes the way you intend it to or the way that you plan. You're going to get feedback from your potential customers or from the marketplace. You're going to get feedback. And if you don't take that feedback and then implement it back into, make some adjustments and implement it back into your product or service or into your business, then what happens is you end up not getting the results that you want to. And and as a result, you kind of end up, discouragement can set in, especially if you keep having to move a deadline, or you keep shifting a goal because you're not quite there. Maybe it's not the goal. Maybe it's the actual goal. Maybe it's not the deadline, but it's the actual goal itself. Maybe you need to make some adjustments there in order for you to actually attain what it is that you're trying to. Maybe your measurements are off, right? So I was just having a conversation with my daughter on my way home from the office today about a specific goal that I have, that I've had for 2 years now, and I keep moving the deadline. And I was telling her that I've really been getting discouraged about it. And I think that it's time for me to not use a specific deadline or specific date as my indicator for whether or not I achieve that particular goal, but change the measurement. So, okay, well, what does it look like? What will it look like when this goal is achieved, right? And so changing your metrics sometimes is what you need to do in order to actually achieve your goal. So don't look at things not going the way you expect them to as a failure. Look at it as feedback. And we're going to revisit this in another tip, in another reason, just a moment. But take that failure, quote unquote failure, as feedback, and then apply what you've learned from that. Okay. So reason number 2 that you're not hitting your goals is that you don't stick with it long enough. A couple weeks ago, I shared on the 4 types of entrepreneurship. Actually, that might have been last week. Anyway, the 4 types of entrepreneurs, and one of them is the potted plant entrepreneur. This is the type of entrepreneur who won't stay in the same space. They won't stick with the same idea. They won't stick with it long enough to actually see it take root and grow, right? So what happens is they just move from idea to idea, and it's not happening as fast as they anticipate it happening. It's not having the momentum. It's not having the success that they think it should in the specific amount of time. So they think that it's not working. And so they just move on to the next idea. But what the ultimate issue there, or the underlying issue or concern, is that you don't have the discipline. You lack the discipline or the consistency to actually see your idea come to fruition. So you're not going to feel motivated every day. You're not going to be inspired every day. But you still have to, in order for you to achieve what it is that you're going after, achieve your goal, you have to show up every single day, whether you're motivated or not, whether you're inspired or not, whether you feel like it or not. You have to show up every single day. It is the consistency. It is the force of consistency that is going to help you to achieve your goals. And so you got to stick with it long enough to see the fruit of your labor. I read years ago, somewhere that an avocado tree doesn't actually produce fruit for like 7 years. So when you take if you take the seed of an avocado and plant it and grow a tree from it, first of all, it has to be under the exact right conditions for it to produce fruit. And it has to grow to a state of maturity, which is 7 years before it actually starts to produce fruit. So think of your ideas as the avocado tree. It has to have the right conditions and the right amount of maturity before it starts to produce fruit. So there are some things that you can do that are going to produce fruit quickly. And then there are some things that are more orchard-like, right? So when you plant it, you plant it that one time, but it takes a lot of time and energy before you actually begin to see the fruit or yield the results of it. So stick with it long enough for you to see the results. I don't know why I keep wanting to say tip, but the next reason why you're not hitting your goal, reason number 3, is that you desire the result or the outcome more than the process itself. Now, what do I mean by that? A lot of us love the idea of whatever that end result is. So we love the idea of fame and fortune. We love the idea of working for ourselves. We love the idea of having the laptop lifestyle where we can travel the world and do business from wherever we are and not be chained to a 9-to-5 or chained to a desk waiting for someone to tell us when we can take time off. And so we love the idea of that. But what happens is we want that more than we want the process of becoming the type of person who can actually hit the goal. So I believe it's Jim Rohn who said this, and I'm paraphrasing, it's the ultimate purpose of a goal is not the goal itself. It is essentially the highest purpose of the goal is to become the type of person who can actually achieve goals, right? So it is a focus on becoming rather than achieving. So instead of being married to the result, instead of really desiring what that outcome is the most, really and truly your focus should be on the process of becoming the person who can achieve that particular goal, right? So there's some work that you have to do on you. There's some personal development, some professional development that you need to do yourself in order to be able to achieve that goal. For example, I am not a runner. I don't particularly enjoy running. In fact, I try to avoid running as much as possible. However, if I all of a sudden decided that I wanted to run a 5K, I would have to be focused on what I need to do day in and day out to actually achieve that goal, to actually run a 5K and finish it, because it's not about starting it, it's about finishing it. My focus would need to be on who do I become? Who does Trasetta need to become in order to be the type of person who can run and finish a 5K? So that would mean I would need to be focused on my diet. I would have to have some sort of training plan. I probably would need, I might even need a trainer, someone to help push me and hold me accountable, because I already told you I don't really care for running. So I would need someone to help keep me motivated and push me to train the way that I need to train in order to be able to run and finish that 5K. So it's not so much about the end result, it's about the process of becoming that person that you need to be in order to achieve your goals. And reason number 4 is that we don't recognize the lessons in failure. A lot of us, when we have failures, things don't go the way that we anticipate them. Things don't go the way we planned them, and we look at it as a failure, but we don't, the trouble is that we don't look at the actual situation as a failure. We label ourselves as a failure. Because our plan didn't work out, I am a failure. And really, truly, it's not you are a failure. That plan just failed. And so rather than putting on that label of I'm a failure, we need to look at that particular plan as the failure, or not even as a failure, but look at it as an opportunity for us to come up with, be innovative and come up with a new plan, or come up with a new strategy for how we want to go about actually carrying out that specific thing. One of the things I wanted to share with you, I had a conference, and I've shared this before. I had a conference year before last that I started planning a year in advance, and I was planning for 100 people, signed a contract, hired all these speakers, and promoted. I started promoting 6 months in advance, and I was promoting. And when the day of the conference, the first day of it was a 2-day conference, when the conference finally came around, I had 5 people registered. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 5 people registered for this event that I had planned for 100 people. I had signed a contract with the hotel for a block of rooms, for catering, for food. Just the hotel contract alone was $7,000. $7,000 just for the hotel piece, for the room, the food, and the sleeping room block. Then on top of that, I told you I hired speakers. So I had speaker fees that I needed to pay, as well as the speakers' rooms and expenses that I needed to pay. And so you can see how very quickly the expense grew even more beyond that $7,000. And 5 registrants was not going to cut it. It was not going to cover those expenses. And no matter what, whether I had the conference or not, I had a contract and I was going to be on the hook for that money either way. Now, fortunately, the Lord stepped in and gave me grace, and the hotel agreed to waive the room block charges, so I didn't have to worry about that. I mean, I still had to pay for my speakers' rooms because I had committed to them that I was going to cover their rooms, but they did waive that piece, and so I had to come out of pocket for all the rest of the expenses for the conference. And let me tell you, that was a very expensive lesson. However, I didn't look at it as a failure, and I didn't look at myself as a failure. I started looking at, okay, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And so I started looking at things that I need to do the next time so that I could get the results that I really wanted to get, so I could get the outcome that I wanted to get. And since then, I've planned multiple events that have been very successful. I haven't planned anything quite that large since then, because that was another thing. It was my first year in business. I didn't even have an audience. I had a very small following. It was very unlikely that I was going to fill a room with 100 people when I barely even had 100 followers at the time, because I had just started out. So, lesson learned. But again, I recognized that there was a lesson in there, a very expensive lesson, but a lesson in there. And I viewed it as an opportunity for me to go back and do things differently with my future events. And our last reason number 5 that you're not hitting your goals is fear of judgment. And what happens is, because we're afraid that people are going to judge us, we end up sabotaging. We end up doing self-sabotage. And you might think that, well, if I have a fear of judgment, judgment for failure, why would I sabotage? Well, the reason why we self-sabotage is because we want to avoid the rejection. What we do is we can see afar off that failure is imminent, and we can see the handwriting on the wall, and so we can prepare ourselves for the failure or for it not working out, and we can concoct a story that we tell people where we can say, well, it wasn't my fault, it was because of X, Y, and Z. So we're able to better prepare and kind of deflect that judgment, deflect that rejection that we might get as a result of things not working the way we anticipate them working out. So instead of being judged and rejected, we just self-sabotage. And that is much more comfortable to us, where we do it ourselves, where we can have an excuse or have a reason where we can put blame on, as opposed to something in and of ourselves. So let's go through those again. Those are our top 5. Number 1, was that you won't adjust your vision. You get tied into your original vision and won't look at the feedback that the marketplace is giving you to make the adjustments in order to actually achieve your goals. Reason number 2 was that you don't stick with it long enough. So we're talking about those potted plant entrepreneurs who move from idea to idea and don't stick with it long enough to see the results that they want. Reason number 3 is that you desire the result more than the process. And so we want to focus on the process of becoming rather than the process of achieving. Reason number 4 is that we don't recognize the lessons in failure, and we end up taking on failure as our identity, putting that label of failure on us rather than the actual plan itself. And then, of course, reason number 5 is the fear of judgment. And so we end up self-sabotaging so that we can deflect and avoid the rejection and judgment of others, because we can put the blame on something or someone else. So those are our top 5 reasons that you're not hitting your goals. And if you'll take some of the strategies that I share with you with each one of these and implement them into your goal setting and into your lifestyle, then you will find yourself hitting your goals much more often. And I just realized that I didn't do it last week, but last week, I didn't even ask you all what you're drinking, and I almost forgot again tonight. So tonight, believe it or not, I'm not drinking tea tonight. I'm having coffee. It's decaf though, so I can still go to sleep tonight. But so that's what I'm drinking tonight. I'm having coffee instead of tea, and it's just regular, plain old, nothing even fancy. It's just plain old decaf coffee, which has now gotten cold. So I'm gonna have to warm it up so that I can finish up, because I have a training that I need to do after we're done with this session. So that's all I have for you all tonight. I want to encourage you to especially hold on to the reason of focusing on the process of becoming rather than the actual achieving. That is my word of encouragement for you, because as you grow, as you develop yourself, that increases your capacity for more. It increases your skill set. It increases your skill level, that thereby enables you to achieve more. And so, if you think about it, if you were someone who wanted to start creating YouTube videos, and you knew nothing about creating videos, lighting, editing, any of that stuff, then you would have to go through the process of learning that. And it is a process. So you have to become a skilled video editor. You have to be skilled at setting up your lighting. You'll have to be skilled at making eye contact with the camera, getting comfortable being on camera. It is a process. And, I'm much more comfortable doing these Facebook Lives now than I used to be, but it was a process. The more I did it, the better I'm getting. And I'm still not where I want to be yet, but I'm a lot better than I was in the very beginning. If you were to go back and watch some of my old stuff, which I do every now and then, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was terrible. But you all can see my growth and evolution through the process. I could always go and just kind of take them down and be like, oh, forget it, I don't want y'all to see that. But I want you all to be able to see that it is a process. It is a growth process. And we all were beginners at one time or another. So give yourself grace, cut yourself a little slack, and know that you will get better as you go along through the process. So that's all I have for you tonight. And I will see you all right back here next week for the next episode of Tea with Trasetta. Good night, everyone.